Some women's advocacy groups have expressed dissatisfaction with a modest increase in women's representation in Ghana's parliament following the 2024 parliamentary elections. The representation has risen slightly to 15.94% compared to the 14.5% seen in the 8th parliament. Now, out of the 276 constituencies, only 44 women have been elected, while to dominate with 232 seats. Ejubi Wiafia Kenteng has more.
In Ghana's 8th parliament, women constituted 14.5% of the total membership, with both the New Patriotic Party and the National Democratic Congress fielding 20 female representatives each. This marked the highest number of female MPs since independence. However, preliminary results from the 2024 parliamentary elections show a marginal increase in representation, with 44 women elected as MPs, making up 15.94% of the total. The remaining 232 seats were secured by men, representing 84.06%. While the Electoral Commission is still finalizing results in some contested constituencies, these figures have reignited discussions surrounding the affirmative action law. The law aims to increase women's participation and representation in governance, targeting a minimum of 30% and ultimately striving for 50% by 2030. Speaking to ChannelOne News, Agnes Titriku, Programs Manager at the African Center for Parliamentary Affairs, noted the challenges faced by women MPs in the 8th Parliament. She highlighted the difficulties they encounter in advocating for women and marginalized groups.
Parliament itself, in constituting its committees, is mindful to make sure that both men and women are represented across all committees, as the numbers permit. If you have 40, there are only so many committees one person can serve on. So, which means when you take the average, any committee in Parliament, the composition will generally skew towards the men. Our population, our census shows that women are more than half of Ghana's population. And so it is important that when you take the highest decision-making body in the land, as far as representative decision-making is concerned, it is in our interest that we have many more women sitting in there.
Women advocacy groups have expressed dissatisfaction with the modest gains in women's representation. They believe that passing the affirmative action bill earlier could have significantly improved the number of female MPs in the 9th Parliament.
The number is very low, which is 14.5% in the 8th Parliament. So we are hoping that the law will make a difference. The only one of the key challenges is that this law was assented to came into effect late in September. By then, most of the bigger parties, the two major parties that we have in our country had already done their primaries. So in terms of how it would have an impact on it, we knew it was negligible. But looking forward, we are hoping that as the law takes full effect, something would happen.
Another significant point is the number of women who contested the 2024 elections compared to previous years. Out of 801 total contestants, 118 were women. Sheila Menka Premo, convener for the Affirmative Action Law Coalition, highlighted various factors contributing to the low participation of women in this year's elections.
If you look at the data on poverty, etc., many women in Ghana are not so wealthy as compared to their male counterparts, and therefore finding that resources that is required, sometimes they have to rely on what they call godfathers, and that comes with a lot of conditions that some women are not prepared to deal with. Again, we have what we call as part of the cultural things that we are associated with, which is the gender division of labor in the home. Most women, when you grow, of course, men as well, you're expected to get married, settle, etc. But the responsibilities that women are associated with within a marriage in the home appears to be more than, it appears to require a lot of time.
Despite persistent concerns over women's participation and representation in politics, advocates remain optimistic following the historic election of a female vice president.
It is a very big win for us. Representation matters. And I want to stress it again, representation matters. Having the first, a woman being the vice president is a big win for all women in Ghana. And as she said in her acceptance speech, in her speech when the EC declared, she's going to hold the door for more women. And that is very instructive, because if we didn't achieve some targets through the elections, there is room for appointments to political offices to reflect these gender targets we are all talking about.
In the 9th Parliament, Ghana is expected to see a slight increase in the number of women elected to occupy decision-making bodies. Now, women advocacy group and stakeholders believe that there is more room for improvement for the country to be able to attain its goal of a minimum of 30 to 50% women representation by the year 2030. Reporting for Channel One News, my name is Ejubi Wiafe Akente.